Welcome back and another week of Talking Technical, and thank you for all the requests, especially for all those thank you emails that we've seen on the transaction capital discussion of last week. That was a prime example of how to build a position with one of the old dogs of the market. And by the way, I see some analysts are talking about that transaction capital at these levels are maybe offering some value. So maybe my friend is going to be happy, and we will maybe watch and see if transaction capital is maybe performing the way he wants. And maybe we can see when there's higher lows or lower highs or whatever the case may be to discuss that in future. But of course, it's for you. This side of the program on Talking Technical is always for guests. It's always to give a free service to the public. So when you have a question, you can always ask. But first of all, our first request for this week was famous brands. And I can clearly see that there's a lot of people that's keen on looking for some opportunities in this market to say, is there maybe a few rand to make out of a relief bounce? Of course, we know that this economy is struggling, but as we all know, that shares always offer some value, sometimes on the upside, sometimes on the downside. But the first request we've got is famous brands. Now look at the share. This share wasn't long ago. In May, can you believe it? That is about 3 months ago. It was a share worth 72 Rand 50, and now the share is trading at levels close to 58 Rand 22. And the golden clue here is where? It's all these dojis. Can you see these dojis with the shadows to the top, shadows to the bottom? Tells you that there's uncertainty amongst traders and investors. And for me, quite simple. That's why I draw that little line there on the top of that one. That's the highest of those three, the upper shadow. And for me, the share, the moment it gets above 58.05, let's just see if I'm correct, 58.70, sorry, above 58.70, we will see a higher low in place. And then suddenly we can maybe look out to see a possible relief rally. So if you want to buy, if you look at this uncertainty, the moment it goes above 58.70, you will see that the momentum will come back in and we can maybe see a relief bounce. Let's just get you some levels. The levels will be 59.60, 59.72, 60 Rand on the dot, 60 Rand 33, and there's another, there's a strong resistance at 60 Rand 90 cents. So I think it can maybe bounce there. And if you look at this 50-day moving average, that is the medium-term investors guideline to say, while the share is below 62.53, be careful because it can maybe just surprise you even to go lower. But for me, above, there you are. If it gets above 58.70, it's possible for a relief bounce, buy there, use this as your stop loss, and my stop loss will be 50, there you are, 57.12. That's the stop loss level below 57.12. It can easily go lower. So for me, a buy above that 58.70, stop loss right down there where I gave it to you. And if you think about it, maybe a nice relief bounce of 3-4% in this market. And that's not too bad, because what does money market give you? It doesn't give you much more than that. But I mean, 4 or 5% or 3% in a small period of time, nothing to be worried about that. Well, let's have the next one, Anglo-American. And there's a question, and the guy asked me, listen, Frans, is there maybe a head and shoulder formation on Anglo-American? Let's just zoom it out a little bit. And if I look at this, it looks like I looked at this share before, and oh my dear, I think my viewer, the guy who was actually on Twitter, asked that. I think he's quite correct. Let's just have a look here. Oh my soul, yes. If you look at this, there's your 50-day moving average. It's a resistance. There's the left shoulder. And there you are, massive right shoulder ahead. And there's the right shoulder. I think I would rather use this maybe. I will make it a little bit skew because just to give you a better idea there. Let's just get that from there. There you are. There you are. Oopsie daisy, we are on the brink of getting a confirmation here. You are quite right, sir. There's the left shoulder. There's the massive head. There's the right shoulder. There's the 50-day moving average that turned into a resistance. And there's the neckline. The share is moving below the neckline. The neckline sits at 553 Rand and 75 cents. And what worries me the most, it came back to test it, and that is what we call a negative goodbye kiss. That is definitely negative. So I can remember Sasol many years when we looked at that and we said there's a head and shoulder formation, and we said no, we don't think it can work out. And what do we see here? That day when we talked about Sasol, we never believed that, and it did work out. Now, if this share remains below this neckline and this head and shoulder plays out, we can see this wonderful company of Anglo-American heading down all the way to 350 Rand. Wow, that's a lot. But let's first give you the conservative target. There's the conservative target. If I just do a combination there, it's almost there at 512 Rand. The conservative target would reach each target. Let's have a look at Pan-African. And of course, the guy asked me, Frans, is this a possible buy? Can we maybe look at buying this company? Well, let's have a look. I always like to use the candles there because that always gives me the emotion. Well, whoa. First of all, ugly waterfall formation. It's below the 50-day moving average. That is negative. And I hope there's not a head and shoulder formation here. No, it looks like it's even a waterfall formation here. And where will it offer a chance for a nice relief bounce? I will rather use that little lines there. I will give you that resistance line now and why I'm using that. It's just another lesson. You find a place where there's a few pointers that's touching that line, then you know you're in the right direction. And I mean, there you are, 1, 2, 3, 4 times it tested that line and it could not breach that resistance. And where's that level? That level sits at 3 Rand and 16. So yes, Pan-African Resources, after this ugly waterfall formation, we usually know a waterfall formation will give you a little bit of a bounce, and it looks like there's a little bit of a consolidation happening here. So the buyers and the sellers are looking at each other and say, where does the share offer some value? So for me, it's quite simple. Yes, it must get above that, and there you are, above 3 Rand 16. Buy there, make use of a stop loss. That's the low of that candle. My stop loss will be 3 Rand and 5, 2 Rand and 85 cents. And that will be my stop loss. And where's my targets? My targets will be 3 Rand 18, 3 Rand 23, 3 Rand 30, and maybe, can you believe it, to 348. And I will only get positive on this chart if this 50-day moving average turns into a support, and that is sitting at 3 Rand and 56 cents. And for me personally, if I think about this market, I say to myself that the commodity shares must show some oomph to give us a little bit of a relief rally. And of course, we also had a request on Impala Platinum, one of those massive counters. I mean, they big into the platinum. Can you believe it? Look at this ugly, ugly, ugly waterfall formation. We looked at the falling wedge earlier on a few weeks or months ago, and what had happened, it just went lower, and there's the waterfall formation. Can you believe it? In a matter of about 10 days, it dropped from 159 to 124, and we warned on that before. We said, be careful. If a commodity share comes out of favor, then suddenly there's some sellers around. And where will I first look at the share? There's the level there. Let's have a look. The level there for me to look at the share is 128.73. And my stop loss, maybe it's a little bit of a big stop loss, will be 116.56. And then we can maybe see a beautiful relief bounce all the way up to 132.27, 133.83. And I think 138, 140 is an easily recovery bounce, and maybe only above 50-day moving average 153.80. We can see maybe some medium-term or long-term investors start to look at the share. But for me, it's important that you pick your shares, Pick them early and don't be greedy in this market. And by the way, you know that we do a candle of the day where we pick every day 2 shares, we analyze them, we show you the chart, we give you the levels, and it's also for you to learn and watch and see what we do. So visit our website www.fransdeklerk.com for more info on the candle of the day so that you can also enroll and learn and teach yourself so that you can become a successful trader on the market. But remember, always trade small and don't burn your fingers by trading too big or to be greedy.